So today we're having Jim Muno join us. He is a former sport executive at PCG Sports Desk, also known as Forefront. He also worked with the Executive Club of Chicago, as well as starting his career with the Baltimore Orioles, spending over 20 years with the White Sox, and also working with Navy Pier, and is a former Division I baseball athlete. Jim, you know how you doing today?
I appreciate you thinking of me, and I'm happy to participate, and anything I can offer up, I'm happy to do. It's while it's been 30 plus years for me being in the sports marketing world, it seems like just a few weeks ago that I was kind of in your shoes and looking to embark on a career. And for me in particular, it was kind of a mix of business and sports, which from the times I've talked with Dan, sounds like most, if not all of you have that same passion and interest. So I'm certainly happy, and I'll touch on a little bit of my background and how I got started, but I'd much rather just kind of stay relevant to any questions or topics or things that you guys have. And so I'm much more comfortable in kind of an open, free forum type thing and very informal. But so please, anytime anybody has questions or anything, by all means, I encourage you to interrupt anytime. So again, Dan touched on my basically the career that I had. And so I guess starting back when I was most of your guys' age, I went to, first off, I kind of always had a passion for sports, baseball in particular. And so when I got out of high school, I went to Wheeling High School, which is a suburb of Chicago. And when I left there, quite honestly, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go to school. All I knew was I wanted to go somewhere to play baseball. And I just figured, anywhere where I'll get an education was the priority. But I also, just as importantly for me, was to have an opportunity to continue my baseball career. So I ended up going to Iowa Western Community College in beautiful Iowa, which played ball for 2 years there, and then went to McNeese State University, which is down in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Played ball down there for a couple of years, hit the peak of my career, and realized I was a decent collegiate player, but that was it. As much as I wanted to, go play center field for the Yankees, that reality hit me pretty quickly soon after my senior year in college. And then I realized that if I couldn't be on the field doing it, I wanted to pursue a career in the front office, which at that time, now, again, this is, as Dan, you made me feel much older than what I even already feel by saying that my career's lasted longer than all you guys have been alive. So that was an interesting context, and I got a good laugh out of that. So thank you. But yeah, so back in the late 80s, I graduated from McNeese State in 85, and then decided that I wanted to pursue a career in sports. So I took the business degree that I had from McNeese. And at that time, there was literally a handful, like 4 or 5 colleges in the country that offered a sports management degree as a master's degree. Western Illinois happened to be one of them. So it was right in the home state, which is what I ended up doing. I went through that graduate program for a year, got my master's degree from Western in sports management, parlayed my business degree, sports management degree, and then that's how I got started with the White Sox as an intern back in 1987. And then my full-time job was off of that internship, was a full-time job with the Orioles. I probably, like many of you, I didn't care where the opportunity led me. I just knew that I wanted to go wherever the opportunity was. And I had never been to Baltimore. I didn't know a soul in Baltimore. All I knew was that I had a full-time opportunity to get started. So off I went. And then I was fortunate enough, after about a year and a half, almost 2 years, be able to come back home to Chicago with the White Sox, and went for 20 plus years with the White Sox, in mostly revenue generating positions, from ticket sales to sponsorship and so on. And then from there went to Navy Pier, WGN Sports, and then the last couple of years of consulting, to where I'm now kind of back, starting from square one. Like many of you, I'm actually embarking on my second phase of my life, and getting back into the thing that I love most, and that's being back on the field and coaching collegiate and high school kids. And basically retired from the corporate life, and now back in baseball doing a lot of coaching, which I'm having a blast doing. So that's kind of in a nutshell how and where my path took me. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions along the way in terms of anything that, again, would be relevant to any insight that I can provide for you guys that might help any of you guys with as you're pursuing your careers as well.
Absolutely. So thank you for that introduction. One of the first question that I prepared for you was actually about that Chicago White Sox internship.
Yeah.
So I know it was, a couple of years ago, back in 1987. But I was kind of curious, how did you get that internship? And what was your most valuable takeaway from that experience?
Yeah, so I was able to secure that internship, like so many things, and it was literally a matter of kind of being in the right place at the right time. The guy who was working with the White Sox at the time happened to be a graduate of Western Illinois through the same program. So I just, as I was going through my sports management degree, master's degree, I literally sent out letters. At that time, believe it or not, there was no internet, there were no emails, there was no social media, there was nothing of that kind. It was literally either a phone call or a letter, like an actual letter that you would mail, which is probably, I'm assuming, very foreign to all of you, since I have kids your guys' age, and I know how foreign that sounds to them. So I literally looked up every major league team and minor league team in the country and sent letters to all of them. I was more focused on baseball. As much as I love all sports, I'm definitely more of a baseball guy. But long story short, I wanted to focus on baseball, and I was willing to go, like I said, anywhere in the country to get my career started. So I connected with the White Sox again because it was a common, just a kind of a common thing with being from Western Illinois. So made a connection there, went in for the interview and kind of hit it off. And as crazy as it is, to this day, the same guy, his name is Jeff Overton. As crazy as things are in life, Jeff has, for the last 10 years or so, been running the White Sox and Dodgers spring training site in Glendale, Arizona. So Jeff and I remain very good friends. And, that started I've lost track of the years, 30 plus years ago. And just a really good lesson, I guess, in terms of just always trying to build a network, build relationships, and keep those relationships, be yourself, and just go about things the right way. So Jeff's the one who hired me. And from there, after my internship, the White Sox didn't offer me a full-time position. It wasn't a guaranteed after my internship. But prior to that, I had gone to the baseball winter meetings, which at that time was down in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I had met many people from many teams because part of the baseball winter meetings, there's a lot of deals, and it's mostly player and general managers and directors of player development and the baseball side of things, but there's also, at least back then, I'm not sure if it still holds true, but back then there were people that had job fairs basically for people like myself at the time trying to get into the industry, and that's where I met a contact with the Orioles. So stayed in touch with them as I served my internship with the White Sox, and then was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to join the Orioles on a full-time position, which I did. A year and a half later, the White Sox, a buddy of mine who I had worked with during my internship, called me and said, "Hey, we've got an opportunity back here if you want to come back home." So for me, it was a no-brainer, and it was incredibly fortunate to be able to stay in sports and do it in my hometown. So the short answer to your question, Dan, is it was partly due to my master's degree and the connection there, and then the baseball winter meetings, which is where I, again, was able to make some other connections that helped me get into the door on a full-time basis.
I'm actually really happy that you said that, because we very recently had a member development workshop where we stressed the importance of networking and the benefits of it. So it's right here is, an excellent success case of great networking ending up with a great career.
Well, and let me just say this, and I can't, that's kind of a timeless type of thing, and for all of you, when Dan and I talked the other day about me coming on to do this, as I told him, I just wanted to make sure I was still somewhat relevant to what I could offer you guys, and that particular piece of anyone's career, whether it's sports, baseball, construction, being in the medical field, whatever it is, man, it's networking, it's relationships, it's people. And I don't care if it was, if you were trying to start a career 50 years ago or today, that's first and foremost. And the only other thing I would say to that, as I mentioned earlier, you guys have so many incredible resources at your disposal just through the internet, through things like LinkedIn, which I think is invaluable. There's so many ways for you to get in touch through, obviously, social media, of just staying on top of current events and where people are and where they're going and what's going on. So whatever it is that you choose to pursue, man, there's no lack of information out there to be as educated and prepared as you possibly can.
Awesome. So this next question I had for you, in your first, it might be a little bit of a pain point. In your first 17 years with the White Sox, they made the playoffs just 2 times, with their best finish being, I believe it was a sweep in the ALCS. But then in that 18th year, it was 2005 when they won the World Series. So how did the team's success or lack thereof in any given year affect you, your responsibilities with your job, or just the culture within the organization?
So here's the first thing I think of when you say that, because obviously, and I did bring the ring. So I don't know, can you guys see me? I don't know if are you able to see me?
Got to bring it. Yeah, we can see you. Just got to bring it a bit high. There it is.
So, so everybody, obviously, and I would have been the same way. I don't know if you can read that or see it, but it's got my name. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, we can see that.
Look at it myself. Name, and then the team record, and then the other side, world champs. 11-1 was the postseason record, which is tied for one of the best postseason records. So, and the only reason I had that was because Dan asked. So I don't normally bring that out too much. But the funny thing about that is that's obviously certainly the highlight of my career. And that's what obviously a lot of my friends and people, will talk about. But what I went through, what most people would never know is, so my first year with the Orioles, first full season with them, which was 1988, and you can look this up. We started the season 0-21. So for those of you that aren't too familiar with baseball, that's still a record by far to this day. And as Dan mentioned and alluded to, there was many years with the White Sox where we had some really bad teams. And I would argue that from a front office, from a marketing and sales standpoint, I would argue that that's where you're probably working the hardest and doing the most is during those lean years, because you've got to really get creative and try to get people out to the ballpark. And we had always tried to base things on, regardless of the team performance, we just wanted to entertain people for 3 hours when they came to the ballpark. So whether the team won or lost, we couldn't control that, didn't try to control that, couldn't control that. So we just could control the experience and try to provide as much fun and entertainment before, during, and after the games. So yeah, there were some really tough lean years that you really just have to get really, really creative with things. And but I look back on those challenges with as much great memories as I shouldn't say as great, because nothing quite topped the 2005 championship, but it was the struggles that you really are appreciative, and that just makes the championships and the really good years even that much more fun.
Absolutely. And then, of course, with spending 23 years with the White Sox, pretty much about 25 years, about a quarter of a century in baseball, what made you decide to leave the White Sox, leave sports, and pursue other career opportunities?
Yeah, so, at that point, I was, I'm losing track of the years, but I was well into my 40s, I believe. And not to bore you all with, you're working nights, you're working weekends. And in my personal and my particular case, my wife has had a great job, great career herself, has traveled literally all over the world. And for many, many years, and still to this day, she's traveling, not because of COVID now, but prior to COVID, was traveling an awful lot all over the country. We have 4 kids, we have 2 dogs, 2 cats. So we had a lot going on, and there was an opportunity to, with Navy Pier, which I don't know how familiar any or all of you might be with Navy Pier, but it's a pretty big destination in Chicago, as well as the entire Midwest, really. So it was kind of an entertainment field, and it was it was just a work-life balance, that when I went to Navy Pier, it was more of a 9-to-5 type job, that just was able to afford me the opportunity to spend more time with my kids and my wife and family, really. And then after 4 years of that, I did absolutely had the itch to get back into sports, which is why and how I got back into WGN Sports and back working not only with the White Sox, but
you touched on this before, how you spent more time with the White Sox 23 years than any of us have been alive, unless we have any 5th years in the club, which I don't think we do. So what influenced your decision to stay there for as long as you did, especially when comparing it to your other jobs where you spent 1, 2, 3, or 4 years there? Why 23 years with the White Sox?
Well, it's pretty easy. I mean, it was, number one, it was really my first, number one, it was home. It was in Chicago. And that was a huge thing. And anybody looking to get into sports realizes that you really have to be in a position to go anywhere and be pretty flexible. But being with the White Sox, it's a great organization. And sorry, I got one of my kids printing out some homework assignments, I think, on me. But yeah, it was just being able to be in the hometown. It was a great organization. ownership on down, from Jerry Reinsdorf on down, just really good, solid people, and just knew how to treat employees great. And besides the fact that it was just a lot of fun and a great career to have in Major League Baseball.
Now, I did have one question, which I just thought of off the top of my head. I'm a big Michael Jordan fan. And as he famously retired in that after that 1993 season to go to the White Sox, I'm curious, just what was going on with that? What were people, whether it was what were people saying? People were excited. I'm curious as to how that went now.
Yeah, well, first off, I've got a really bad memory to begin with. And on top of that, I've had multiple concussions from years ago, from football, baseball, car accident, you name it. So it's foggy, but there are some, I definitely, absolutely remember that. They covered some of that in The Last Dance, if any of you saw the 30 for 30, which was pretty awesome. But what I do remember, and then he played in spring training, and then we had an exhibition game against the Cubs that he played and actually got one or maybe a couple hits. And we brought some clients, some sponsors of ours down, which we did every year for a long weekend at the time in Sarasota for spring training. And a few of us happened to be out one night, and as were a lot of White Sox people and just a lot of people. And Michael walked in, and pretty much it was just, everybody glommed onto him, and he had his cigar, he had a few drinks, and it was just a lot of fun. It was just, he just created a whole level of excitement that he didn't do it for the fun. He was 100% seriously dedicated to trying to make it to the big leagues. But it was a cool experience to be a part of. That was one. Bo Jackson, when we had Bo, was a pretty amazing experience. I mean, there's a whole number of guys that I was fortunate enough to be around a little bit to experience some of that. It was pretty cool. But yeah, Michael that was pretty amazing.
All right, so we're going to open this up to a Q&A for the rest of the members. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and going through chat, we'll just go through, let's see. So Patrick asked, what was one unexpected challenge you faced through working in professional sports?
It's a great question. One unexpected right out of college. I didn't care what I was doing. I just wanted the opportunity, and I was happy to do whatever it was. And I go back to the old ballpark, and I can still remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, the old Comiskey Park had literally had rats, had animals, had bugs, spiders, you name it, in kind of the bowels of the stadium. And one of the many responsibilities I had were the giveaway items at the time. So we'd get 10,000 hats to give away to fans, and we'd have to store the hats for the week before. And I was the one as the intern to literally go into these storage, dark, wet, cave-like parts of the ballpark to store stuff. And I was happy to do it because I knew I just was part of a big league team. So really, fast forward years after that, it was just a great experience working from the ground level up to make me appreciate when I was a director and a VP level position. I knew what it took, on the lower levels. So I can't say honestly that there was that many surprises or things that took me back, because I had kind of been through it all, quite honestly. The one thing I would just say, based on my experience, so many people that are wanting to get in it, and the people that do get in it don't want to leave it. So it's just something that you really have to be prepared to give your blood, sweat, and tears to it. But, for everything that I did over my career, I wouldn't change it for the world. I mean, it was an awesome experience, but it's just a really a huge commitment. But like I said, everything is nowadays.
Awesome. Let's see. We've got about 3 more questions we'll go through.
Sure. I'm fine on time, so whatever you guys want to do is fine with me.
Okay. So this is from Henry. That last one was from Patrick. So from Henry, hi, Jim. I really appreciate you giving us your time tonight. I was wondering if there was ever another position within the organizations that you worked for that you wish you could have worked in. So is there anything else that you wish you could have done?
They really surprised me because they said, well, we really like you and would like for you to stay here. What would it take for you to stay here? Which I wasn't prepared to answer that question. And I, half joking, half serious, said, well, one day I'd love to be a general manager of a team. So if there's any opportunity on the baseball side, that would be something that would be of interest. And Larry Lucchino, who went on to own the Red Sox for many years, who was the president of the Orioles at the time, true to his word, said, well, don't commit, don't do anything, give me 24 hours. 24 hours, within the next 24 hours, John Bauer, who was the director of scouting, had called me and said, hey, we got a scouting position for you if you're interested. We'd love to have you, kind of thing. I had to think long and hard, and it was really I had a few sleepless nights because I turned it down for the opportunity to come home. And it was in a lot of ways really somewhat of a gut-wrenching, not to be overly dramatic about it, but it was a really tough decision for me because I knew I was kind of cutting off the potential to get into something that I really wanted to do. But it was the lure of not just coming home, but staying on the business side, which the more I thought about it, the more I just thought, I can't see myself for 20, 30 years driving through cornfields and anywhere and everywhere all over the country, scouting high school, college kids, versus staying on the business side and always having that experience and background to go to any other industry that would, again, have some relevance in other areas, which I felt that if I pursued the baseball side of it, that's a really small niche that would be really difficult to get out of. So yeah, I think about that often, about that, I guess, proverbial fork in the road that you come to.
All right. We'll go with, we have a question from Jan. Can you talk about the 1994 baseball season with the lockout and how it impacted corporate partnerships? What specific things were challenges? Thanks for coming on the Zoom call.
Yeah, no, thank you. You guys are reaching back. It's hard to believe it's that long ago, but yeah. And I remember it well. It was certainly one of the most trying experiences going through that. And it was technically a strike by the players. And then it was a lockout the following year because that affected 1995 as well. But yeah, the strike in 94, I mean, as you could imagine, people were just, it was really, and for us in particular with the White Sox, because Jerry Reinsdorf was one of the owners who was pretty heavily involved in the negotiations. And he was kind of I'd say somewhat of a lightning rod for a lot of criticism for that. So it kind of hit us doubly hard. People were pissed off, obviously, at the players, the owners, the teams, but especially more so with us, the White Sox, because of Jerry's involvement. So it was a lot of, getting back to relationships and network. It was a lot of hat in hand going to our clients and our sponsors and saying, look, we want to make good. And our goal was to keep the revenue that we had and do as many make goods as we could for the following year.
Let's see, we'll do one last. We got a little bit of questions more so as a White Sox fan for you.
Sure.
assuming you still follow them in baseball. So who do you think the White Sox should target this season as right fielder?
Well, not that I'm any expert by any stretch, but I'm
MLB
like
scout.
a fan. Was that?
Former MLB scout almost.
Yeah. Well, and I trust me when I tell you, I have no insight whatsoever. But clearly, I think there's some pretty obvious guys out there, free agents in particular, that I'm assuming that the Sox have, because they have so many young guys tied up. They have a lot of financial stability in that sense. But, the whole COVID thing is a whole twist for everybody. And so, it's hard to tell what kind of revenues the teams are going to generate next year or the next couple of years. And really, essentially the way it works is based on the revenues that are generated, that's the payroll that the baseball guys have to go out and sign guys for. So all that aside, if you're asking me, just in terms of pure players, I think George Springer would be an incredible addition. The Sox have been really lacking in right field in particular. So to get somebody like George Springer would be awesome. Trevor Bauer, I know he's kind of a unique kind of guy and marches to his own drum beat. But I think he'd be a great guy at the top or certainly in the middle of the rotation. So if they could pick up a solid right fielder like a George Springer and a guy like Bauer or another starting pitcher, I think they don't have too many missing pieces. Those would be a couple of them.
All right. Well, that's all our questions today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to meet with us, Jim.
Yeah. The only other thing I would say, Dan, real quick, just a couple of resources for you guys that helped me even in my latter years, just in terms of keeping up with things going on in the sports business world. And you guys may already be familiar with it, but the Sports Business Daily and Sports Business Journal. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those publications or resources, but those are two really good resources. And then Teamwork Online, which again, I have no idea if you guys are already in tune to some of these things. But if you're looking to get started in a career in sports, Teamwork Online has been around forever and a place that you might want to check out. And then Sports Business Journal, Sports Business Daily are a couple of resources that kind of help keep up with what's going on in the sports world, where there's changes with teams, with personnel. So those would just be a couple of things that I would offer up as something worth checking out.
Awesome. I wrote those down, so we'll make sure to include that in the follow-up email we send out following this meeting. But again, thank you so much for coming by.
Yeah.